everyone, I'm Holly, and I am the maker and doer of all the things here at Missouri River Soap. In this video today, I am making a new batch of soap. I'm very excited about it. It was one of those inspirations that it was spontaneous, and so I'm just excited to put it into motion, and let's just see how it goes. So my inspiration was from a drink that my son got from Copper Mountain Coffee in Kalispell, Montana, and it was their moonshine. Now, moonshine is just an energy drink, kind of a fizzy flavored drink with some energy syrup in it. And he made it into a frappe. Now, they had posted about this particular drink a few days before, and it did look very good. So he got it, and I don't have a picture of it, but wow, it was really pretty. And so I will put the picture that they put up on the screen so that you can see what I'm going with. Now, it was a blue Jolly Rancher type, and so I am trying this rainbow fragrance. I'll put it over. I have two cameras going over here today. It's kind of weird, but for our little zoom in process. And this is, there's no description on this fragrance. Like, it's just basically a fruity explosion. So on the little picture, they have kiwi, grapes, pears. I get a lot of apple. It just has that tart and juicy, like, not necessarily blue raspberry like maybe a blue Jolly Rancher would be, but just tart and juicy and kind of makes your nose tingle a little bit. I love it so much. I made it last year as, I don't remember its name, but it was a spring rainbow scent that I did. So I will put that name up on there in case you've already gotten that soap. I really do want to work with a nice blue, so I have chosen Blue Vibrant from Nurture Soap and Sky Blue Mica Powder from Nurture Soap. And then I have some titanium dioxide because I do want that creamy like topping on it. So the first thing I need to do though is finish measuring out my oils. So in my oils here, I have they are melted down from, I had to come out and remelt them because I did not get to this batch yesterday. But I have coconut oil, kokum, and shea butters. So I, like many of other soap makers, have had to move away from cocoa butter. Not only is it just outrageously expensive, you know, I used to buy a 55-pound block for like $100 and some plus shipping. And now at last check was like $700 and some plus shipping. There was just like a crop, I believe the crop had a crop failure. And so it's very expensive right now, and you can't even get it in some places. I noticed on like Wholesale Supplies Plus, back in the day, I would buy like 300 and some pounds of the wafers. And I went on there just to kind of compare. I'm like, ooh, that's going to be really expensive. So I went back on to compare, and the most you could get was like 10 pounds now, and you didn't even have that option. It was sold out. So it's a situation. So for me, I've decided to use kokum butter and shea butter to kind of blend those together. Kokum's a little bit harder, not as hard as cocoa butter, but it is a little bit harder. Shea butter is soft, but we love shea butter. So we're going to do shea butter and kokum butter. And like I said, I have my coconut oil in here. So I need to add in my liquid oils. So I'm going to kind of shift over here so that I can utilize this camera. Y'all can see that a little bit better. This is my inaugural 2-camera video, so please be patient with me. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to measure out my castor oil. I have my scale tared out, and this has been very ploppity. I tend to get very oily on my clothes, even with an apron on, so the stain fighter and I are pretty good friends. Let's see. So the castor oil not only creates a conditioning factor and brings, it's like a humectant, but it also is good for making bubbles. It's my bubble maker. I love it so much. I love it. So if you are a soap maker and you work on soap calc or, you know, a similar soap calculator and the numbers that we see broken down, I have reformulated my recipe to be exactly the same. As a side note, I do buy a cubic container. I'm Small Peanuts soap maker. I don't buy 300 pounds of cocoa anymore. You know, I don't need to buy drums or anything. I've never worked with drums. I couldn't anyway. But I transfer into a smaller castor oil bottle from a 35-pound cubic container. I love those. But it comes out dreadfully slow, so I do have to transfer it. Alright, so the next thing that I need is my olive oil. Now, I do use olive oil from Costco. I've always pretty much used olive oil from Costco or Sam's Club. This particular one is a mixture of refined olive and extra virgin olive. And so I have compared prices, and with shipping, it still always ends up being less expensive to purchase from the Costco or the Sam's Club. I remember when olive oil started becoming more difficult to get. It was around the COVID time, I think. And hold on, I need to double check what I need. And oh my goodness, it was starting to get hard to come by, and I remember buying just like a whole truckload of this, and it did last me a very, very long time. So I need the majority of this bottle. So this is like 2 5-pound loaves, and I get, they're 18 inches long, but I do get, I do 17 bars. I cut it 1 inch, so then I have my little end pieces that I use for testing and sending out as samples. It takes a hot minute. We're almost there here, so slow as you go. Whoop, and I need a drip. My scale just turned off. Anyway, I know what I needed. I just needed a drip. And I do know the weight of my pot, so I will just double check this since it turned off. That is an unusual scenario. I've never had that happen before where it just turned off. That's all I needed was a drip. So I better check its battery. But I will grab my other pot. I'm going to tear it out. And now let's see what this weighs without my spatula. And one pot weighs just a smidgen less. This looks like the one that weighs a smidgen less. This is a 150 ounce oil batch today. So I am right where I need to be. Now that I have added in the liquid oils, my melted oils are only 73 degrees, which is actually a smidgen low, but I can just move right on and get my batch done today. So what I typically do is I will come out in the morning and I will weigh out my lye solution, open a window, and then I leave. That way it does its thing. I'm not involved. And it can, all the fumes, there we go, can evaporate and dissipate. So then I come out and I go ahead and weigh out all of my hard oils and I put it on a stove to melt. Now, if I don't get to that batch that day, I will usually just let the hard oils solidify. But I do prefer to mix in my liquid oils fairly close to the time that I'm actually going to make soap. That way, if I don't get to making soap that day and I have to remelt my oils down, I don't have to warm up the whole thing. Now, I do find it best, if I have to warm up the whole thing, is really just to make sure that it gets up there nice and warm and not just melted and then let it come back down. Otherwise, I find that it can solidify just way too quick. While I do my colors, I think I will actually just go put this on the stovetop for a moment, just real low and slow, to just kind of see if we can raise that up a little bit. Even though I'm a room temp soaper, I have been finding that in the winter, because I think my temperature, I can't see it from here, but I think it's probably 61 degrees in here, because we haven't put in the new heater yet, so it stays a little bit cooler. I feel great. I'm not cold, but it can solidify and give me a false trace if it's too cool. So I've been finding that I like it in more of the 80 range. So for this fragrance oil, I can use it at a 5% usage rate, which is typically where soap makers shoot for, is the 5%. And so I have 2 bottles here, so I'm just going to finish this up. So that is 7.5 ounces. So I'm going to finish that one up. That's a little over 5. Smells amazing. It's sour and tart. I love it. I would love a little bit of a blue raspberry element, but I don't have anything, so we're gonna make it work. And so I'll get on up there to the 7.5. Good. Now for my colors. All right, so I am going to mix up my colorants now. We use them at a rate of 1 to 2 teaspoons per pound of oil. I have a little over 9 pounds of oil in this batch. So what I was thinking I would do is I'm going to mix these 1 to 1. I looked at the color blender on Nurture soap. It's Nurture Handmade now, but I looked at their color blender, and that's what I want to do. I think is a 1 to 1, and I may add a little bit of titanium dioxide to it. I believe I want 3 teaspoons of titanium dioxide just standing, waiting for me. We'll see how I want to use that. So I am going to put on a mask. These powders are on California's Proposition 65 list in powder form. Once they are added to a mixture, they fall off of the list. So I am going to protect my lungs. I don't want to inhale this. So I'm going to be putting on a mask, and I probably won't be talking through this, but I'm going to sift my titanium dioxide, and then I'm going to mix just a little bit of water in to mix up the titanium dioxide. For my oils, I am going to use a little olive oil to mix those. Now what I will probably do is mix in about half of fresh olive oil with about half of my batch oils. That way if I don't use it all, I'm good to go. I haven't used up too much of my batch oils. But if I do use it all, then I have just a smidgen more oil in it, which means that our super fat is just going to be up just a smidgen. I just rather have the more and a little more super fat than the less. So I'm gonna mask up and work on mixing these colors. I don't know if you can see, but it just started snowing. It's lovely. I love snow. Okay, so what I ended up doing is adding in some Blue Tide and Key West Blue from Mad Micas. When I was looking at this blue sky, I was thinking, you know what? It's too kind of too dusty. I wanted it to be more bright, so I decided to mix those in, and I have a pretty nice color going. I'm going to grab some of the oils from my batch momentarily. So I tend to mix the micas, 1 teaspoon of mica with 1 tablespoon of oil. This one just shut off, so filling on you go to something else. And then with the titanium dioxide, I put in 3 teaspoons of titanium dioxide, but only 1 tablespoon of water was all I needed. And I'm gonna pop it in the microwave. I'm gonna bring its temperature up just a little bit, and it'll be good to go. All right, so I inadvertently rewarmed my oils a little bit too much. So we're sitting at 107. It went up. I don't know how it went up really, but anyway, so I am going to have to just hold and wait for that. So I mixed up my lye solution yesterday, and it has, I'll show you over here on this one, and I covered it up, but we do still have a little bit of lye lint in there. Now the lye lint is when the sodium hydroxide reacts with the carbon dioxide in the air. It's not usually a big deal, but I do like to strain it off since I made it yesterday. It's a little bit soft because it's been completely covered since it was warm, but yeah, that's not going to work as is. I'm going to strain that off. So my lye solution is 66 degrees, which is fine. I find that the warmer oils with the cooler solution is still fine for my process. Okay, so let's do this thing. I had to wait about 30 minutes and it's under 100 now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it and hope I don't regret anything. I want to clean up, and I have an order to pack before we head to town. We need to order some stuff for the cabin. So I did not cover, I'm using coconut milk, and it is the Native Forest organic coconut milk. And I like it because the ingredients are just organic coconut milk, which is organic coconut and filtered water. So there's no gums in that. So that is pre-measured. I had just enough left from making my soaps yesterday, and so it's been in the fridge, and now I've warmed it back up to a room temperature phase. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the coconut milk. Let's scrape that out today. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and get that blended in. Okay, so now for the lye solution. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and strain this out. I usually try to get rid of this spoon. I guess I still can. Hold on. And then I just have my little strainer here. And it's not going to collect that much. It's not a big deal, but we certainly don't want those just hanging out in the batter. So you can see not much came out of that. I try not to scrape it too much, but it just must be done. Okay, so I don't want to blend it up too much. I don't want it to be difficult to work with once I split for the colors and everything. So I want it to be rather pory. Okay, that is well emulsified. Whoa. So I am going to go ahead and put in the fragrance, and here's hoping that I did not have issues with this last time, and I won't have it this time either, because I sure don't remember to just stir this right now. All right, this is looking really good. I'm going to be blending it up more, for sure. Oh, smells amazing. I love this fragrance. All right, so I'm going to pour some off for the white. So I have not been pouring very good recently. All right, so that's about 2.25. I can't see you. What are you? About 2,200 liters. I think I'm gonna give it a little bit more. It is thickening up, but I was able to do a 6 color swirl last time. So what I want to do now is go ahead and add in the blue. I do feel like I want it all. And let's see what that looks like. I'm going to whiten it up just a little bit. Woo! That's definitely potent, but I do want to pour a little bit down into the molds. That definitely turned out to be a more potent blue than I intended. That color combination really gave me quite the punch. So what I want to do at the moment confirm that was mixed well. Alright, so what I wanted to do was just put in a little bit. I just want it to kind of do that little swirly swirl. Now this is quite a bit darker than the inspiration. I want to add a little bit of white here. So my reheating has really quite gone awry. It's a little bit darker than, quite a bit darker really, than what I was thinking originally, and based on the picture, but I love it. I think it's going to be gorgeous. So now I want to just pour the rest of this in. This is definitely thickening up. I probably should have taken back some of the blue and had more white. It is what it is now. Sometimes even the color payoff surprises me. So this is really quite thick. We were just still too warm. That's all there was to it. But other than me doing this little pour in that I wanted to do, this thickness is not an issue for this blue top. I really did want that to be quite a bit lighter. It is beautiful, but I shouldn't have put in all of the blue. Okay. Put in the rest of that titanium dioxide. Usually when I go for the pastel colors, it ends up dull, and so I was really concerned because I really didn't want it to be dull, and so those colors are not dull. But I think they're fun. Not exactly like the picture, but still super fun. Alright, so now I am just going to see if this will pour in at all. I don't want it to be a lot. I just thought it would be nice to have a few pours down into this base. Pretty much like so. That's looking good. And so now I'm just going to pour the rest on. I guess I'll let it flood. It's not really going to pour in a whole lot, but I still want it to move that blue all over into the white. So there. I can rest just a bit. I can relax. We've got the majority of the soap in. I got distracted because somebody started walking over here. Wouldn't you know, right when I was in the thick of it? But I yelled out, "I'm filming!" And an about face was made, so. Now, I'm not going to really make it like dollopy. I've done lots of dollopy soaps, and I wasn't thinking about the dollopy, kind of like how the whipped cream is put on the top of the drink. I've done that, but that was not my goal for today. Usually that means I need a lot of extra soap batter than what I normally put in, just to have a fairly good sized bar and then have the dollops on the top. I didn't feel like doing that today, so we're just going to spread this white about. It's kind of cream right now. My oils, when they are in melted form, kind of have a beigey yellow hue to them. My last, when you're working with cocoa butter, it kind of has a little bit more of a yellowy orangeness to it. Sometimes, depending on what olive oil is used, they'll have like a green tint to it at first, but this is kind of more of a, just kind of like a beigey, just a good cream. It's still snowing. It's a very light snow, but it is snowing nonetheless. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and bring the edges in just a little bit, because I just slice off a little off of each side. Make sure that is good and level, even. Anyway, I slice off a little bit off each side so I can bring a little bit of this soap into the middle. Let's see how I want to do this. I want it just to kind of be a ploppy, kind of a ploppy look. How do I want to do this? Like that. It's kind of how I was working with my lemon poppy seed the other day. And then it's kind of just, we're just kind of making it, I don't know, what would you call this? Ploppy, and then, no, not ploppy. I don't know, rippled. I guess rippled is kind of what I was going with. You know what? I kind of really like this. And so I think I am just going to keep it as is. So look at that. Doesn't that look really, really fun? I'm going to clean the edges off. Otherwise, those little thin bits of soap end up on the edges, and it's just kind of a pain when it's time to unmold. I like this. I like this a lot. Let me go look at my color I had going on. That is pretty dark. It is pretty dark, so you can't win them all. I was over eager with my color and it ended up being too potent. So if I do it again, I have the opportunity to pull it back, but colors are also more intense when they're in this form. So we'll just have to see what it looks like and what it looks like. So I usually wait a little bit and then I take some 91% alcohol and I'm going to spray this top pretty good, and it does seep down the sides a little bit, which can be weird, but then I will cover it up with some cardboard and just kind of let it set and hang out, do its thing. It's Friday, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to wash my dishes. Like I said, we're going to town. I need to pack an order. And I have a sewing project for this weekend that I'm pretty excited about. And so bring on the snow, bring on the cozy. And I will talk to you when it's time to unmold and cut this batch. Okay, so it is a Monday now, and I am very eager to cut the soap. I want to see what it looks like all throughout. I did kind of pull it out of the mold and took a little sneaky peek, but I didn't look at it too much. So we'll do that together in a moment. But I was going to tell you, I did end up sewing, and I made this a cute little rainbow bag. And I did go ahead with the zipper. Some people have been following me know that I've been kind of belly aching about the zipper, but I'm just learning how to sew, and this is a project bag for like some sock knitting and stuff. And so yeah, it's so cute. I guess I'll show it to you over here too so that you can see what it looks like. But I just love the rainbow so very much. It makes me completely happy. So that's what I was up to this past weekend. I'm paying for it a little bit because my neck hurts and all the things hurt from... I watched 3 Hallmark movies and a little bit of a television show to make this one little bag. But I was adapting a different pattern, so making changes, modifying it. So it took me a lot longer overall. So here we have this soap. It looks so good on the top. I love how the top looks. So let's go ahead and unmold this fully. It smells amazing. I'd say once it saponifies, it kind of pulls in a little bit more of a... Not sure what that sound was. It does pull in a little bit more of a cleaner note, as in clean, not like cleaner that you would clean something. Ooh, it is really pretty. Now, I am an emotional soaper, so I was fairly disappointed in this batch. I thought it was pretty and it's going to be gorgeous in general, but it wasn't what I planned. And when I don't get things to go as I plan, it does take me a while for my brain to shift my thoughts, readjust, and to accept what has happened. So, oh, that color is really gorgeous though. And so I took a peek of it, at this blue. And I thought, you know what? Even though it's not the light color from my inspiration, it's beautiful. And this is one of my favorite blues that I have ever soaped. So there's that. So it's looking so pretty. Look at that. I love it so much. I do. I truly do love it so much. Not quite what I was going for. I had to take a moment to readjust, but it'll work. I think as a rule, well, maybe not as a rule, because maybe people aren't as emotional as I am, but I get really disappointed off and on through the whole process. And usually I get over it. I have to just kind of redirect so that I can be happy with things yet again. So I have my splitter here from Smith Creek Studios. I love this thing. I don't believe it is available anymore, but I do love it. It is a very convenient. I like being able to just split whatever size that I want right off the bat. So I have my husband build my molds with a little extra because I don't know if you can see it, but there's some little bit of dimples and ridges, and that's just gonna happen. And I don't know about your silicone molds, but even if I was using silicone, a lot of times they don't lay in there perfect, and so they can still have little dimples. And so I like to just slice off a little bit. And then I use these for my samples. I love how I did the top. Holy moly. Oh, that's pretty. Look at the color. It is really pretty. At first I saw these streaks and I was like, oh my goodness, what happened? I forgot I did it on purpose. Sometimes, but that is some beautiful business right there, isn't it? I love the floofy type topping without it being over dollopy like I talked about. I've done some good dollop soap before. I've done some root beer floats, and which that is one of my favorite scents, is the root beer float. Oh, lovely. This actually on this loaf split perfectly for the top. It's so gorge. Beautiful. I'm loving this so far. So I've been trying to get my wax melter up and running today. That is creating wrath within my system. And so I told my husband I am done with it. I am not fighting with this stupid wax melter scenario anymore. So we're just going to outfit a Presto pot for now. We've done it. He's done it 3 or 4 times in the past. So what happened with the wax melter that I have now? I bought it back in 2022 and I hadn't unpacked it yet when we decided to put the house up for sale and all of that. So I decided I would just wait until we got up to Montana and got things back into operation. And so I did. I waited, and I wish I wouldn't have waited. I don't like this melter, and I do believe it got taken off the website because nobody else liked it either. So I have been fighting with it. It's exploded the lid off a couple of times. I still have wax on my windowsill. I'm still trying to get wax off walls and windowsills and etc. I'm just so thankful that my soap shelf is covered. Oh, goodness. Anyway, it's just not been worth the effort overall. And I am going to have a jolly day that we load it up and throw it in the metal heap at the dump. Alright, so let's do this. Let's get this soap cut. And the second loaf actually turned out really nice too in its design on the top. We definitely could have some ocean vibes here. We could have some clean vibes, but you know what? It just smells so good, so fruity, so tangy. Do have some, it's just like air. They're air bubbles, but they're not air pockets, so it's a little textured, but ultimately that's not going to be an issue because I'm going to plane these off. So this is, whoo, that'd be a heck of a bar of soap, huh? This turned out so fun. And I guess I was trying to remember what happened that it was so perfectly bloop bloop. And I do believe all I did was I just kind of poured it down in. So I really like how that turned out. So I have another sample there. And that's our tester. And so I really don't think it could have turned out much better, to tell you the truth. I could have gone a little bit lighter. I'm not even sure I would have put in less blue at this point, but maybe a smidgen more. Because I didn't use all of the blue. So I probably would have pulled back just a little bit of blue, but more white just to adjust the depth of the blue. So it'd be a little bit more creamy. But I think this works. And I absolutely love that darker blue. That just from that small amount that we put in at the bottom. Yes, you were here. We did it together. So yeah, so it turned out quite delightful. And because it's cold processed soap, it's going to sit on a curing rack for at least a month. I will pull it off when it's getting closer. And then I will, ooh, this one's very wavy. Isn't that neat? It's just very wavy. I love that. It is kind of weird with the two cameras. So gonna get, like I said, give me some little patience as I figure out how I want to do these. I have not actually done any editing yet on this video. So I just need to make sure that I like the angles and I can change it up next time. But what we're going to do is get these lined up so that they can evaporate the excess moisture. They do their chemical magic process, and then once the cure is over, it has to cure minimum 4 weeks. It has to. We can't get around that. But longer is better. So I will get out the tray and we'll go ahead and line these up as well. Okay, so for the curing rack, what we use are trays like so. And it's like a bun rack that a bakery would use or what have you. And I have it kind of back there to the left, just opposite of me here. But they don't really come with them, but we buy aluminum trays. But soap reacts with aluminum. So even though I could just have a parchment or paper towel liner, I'm just not really happy with, still there's just a little bit of interaction there. So very, very minimal. I actually had bought the plastic trays to use on my new curing rack, but they're too flimsy. So I did end up buying the aluminum, but they do sit very well together, and I just love how sturdy they are. So I still put down a piece of some parchment paper. And then I just lay them out. Make sure I'm mostly being seen over here. Kind of give them a look-see, because we don't tend to look at every bar if we just kind of plop them on. And then in probably 3 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to pull them off, and I'm going to plane them and bevel them and put them on another little tray that they'll probably just sit on my counter until I just get around to wrapping them about time for the release. Sometimes they're like a smaller version of the white one, so I'll just put a couple on the on an aluminum tray if I need to get them out of my way. But usually by the time I start pulling them off, I'm thinking about wrapping, which, in full disclosure, it's usually because it's last minute. But ideally, I'll pull them off at about 3 weeks and clean them up. And my customers have asked for me to clean them up. So when I restarted, I was not beveling and planing because it does take a lot of time. There is some waste that you could have just had on your bar of soap. But people did not like the edges. They didn't like that they weren't completely smooth as they were accustomed to. Oh, we have a little bit of a air bubble there. And so I did go back to it. It does cause me some distress in my neck. My shoulders tends to give me headaches. But I'm getting stronger again as my body just gets used to it. I was having my daughter help me with wrapping and stuff, but she also has neck issues and she had to quit completely because she was really suffering. But it does create a nice end appearance to bevel and plane the bars. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and that you will chat with me in the comments, and I'll talk with you later. Bye.